Have you noticed that all of a sudden your favorite scrapbooking store has a ton of products unavailable? Or maybe you even put those products in your cart to pre-order and they've just disappeared. They vanished. Well, where did they go? Well, most scrapbookers don't know all the behind the scenes info. And this week, me, along with a whole bunch of other scrapbooking stores, received an email that perfectly paints just how connected our industry truly is. Today, I'm going to take you on a behind the scenes ride and show you how a scrapbooking product actually gets from the manufacturer all the way to your craft. Today, we're going to go on this little journey together. And I thought first, let's start off with who I am. So the Crafty Maven Getaway is a small business and I provide mixed media kits on a monthly basis. I curate a kit of a whole bunch of products together. I like to put them different companies' products together. So this means that I need to be able to order from a place that I can get things from a whole bunch of different places, right? This is where the supply chain is super important, right? So let's go over what the supply chain is so that you can see how products get from a manufacturer, a designer and manufacturer, all the way to your craft room, right? So we have the manufacturer. This is the big companies that are designing, they are making and producing these products. So American Crafts was one of the really big ones. And we have like Bell Boulevard, we have Ranger, we have a whole bunch of different companies, right? These are manufacturers. They work with designers to come up with really cool collections and products. Then they sell it to a distributor. This is a company that works to collect products from multiple different manufacturers. This is really nice when you have something like a craft a craft supply chain, because a lot of stores hold products from multiple different companies. You're not just going to buy from one company. Let's say your yarn, right? Some manufacturers are going to have a lot of different styles, right? So you want to be able to buy from a whole bunch of different places. And the distributor makes this possible, right? When you have certain stores, like a store like mine, which is very small, I'm not going to buy $5,000 worth of product at one time, because I'm not going to sell $5,000 worth of product at one time. I'm just buying enough to make a certain set of kits and maybe have a couple extra for the store if people want a little bit more, right? And this goes for even a lot of bigger stores, like especially online stores, but even in-person stores. So we are all buying from different companies, and depending on how big the manufacturer of the company is would depend on whether it makes sense to buy from them or the distributor. Notions is the number one distributor of craft supplies in our country. They ship all over the world, and they have a wide variety of products from different companies. You can go on their site and you can see just the list. It is super long of all these companies, and they're not just all scrapbooking, it's just all craft. So it makes it really nice for a store like my store, or even Cherry on Top. I know they're much bigger than the store that I run, but they still aren't selling out. They're not buying a ton of everything every single time. So they are picky about where they're buying from. And yes, they have some other companies that they buy from, but a majority of their product is from like Notions. Just like a majority of my products have been from Notions. I can get stuff from a lot of different companies. And then from that, these stores, whether you're semi-big or just a little mom and pop store, maybe that's down the street when you go on vacation, or if you're lucky enough to have a store in your area where you can go and hang out and do like mini little crops and create and get some supplies you need. Even them, they're not buying a ton of products, so they're going to buy from a place that's a distributor. And many of the big manufacturers, in order to buy from them, you're going to have to spend like $500, like $1,000 at a time, because they put a cap on what the minimum is. Even a distributor has a cap. It's much lower, and you're able to buy from multiple different companies. So it makes it a lot easier to put that cap on it, right? So if I need to just spend $100, it's a lot easier than, say, if I'm buying from a bigger company and I have to spend $250. Like, that's a big difference, right? For a smaller store, I might only need a few things that I need to pick up on. Some of these smaller stores that are run, they have a lot of different product, but they're not selling a lot of different product all at one time. I will say, for a company like mine, I'm pretty lucky because I'm able to buy a smaller amount. I don't have a ton of product that I need to hold, and because I'm doing a curated kit, I'm not buying a ton of different types of products, right? I'm buying a certain kind. And so from that, I make a kit, and then that ends up to your house. You're going to subscribe. You're going to get that each month. Each month you're going to get mail. It's going to have tons of crafty things. And I'm able to provide that because I can buy from a distributor, right? I have to source those things all from different places. And it is much easier if I can do it from 1 or 2 places as opposed to 5 or 6. So let's fast forward to really why maybe you're not able to get all these products. So earlier in June, I should say, so somewhere around the first week of June, like the 7th, the 9th, we received an email that said that there were storms in one of the main warehouses. So the warehouse, Notions, is now based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. They recently-ish moved. I'm not sure exactly when they moved, but they were moving their warehouse because the company has changed quite a bit over the last couple of years. And so they were moving there, and they have multiple warehouse buildings in their area, right? And so their main one, when so there was a whole bunch of storms and the power ran out, and when they went to go turn it back on, the main building that they load and unload all their orders come out from, this main one, there was an electrical surge and there was a big fire. We don't know how big it was. They didn't really, at first, when we got the email, it was like, we got to assess the damage. So that means that they're calling up their insurance and stuff. This is why companies like this have insurance, because you just never know. But with that said, you're not expecting a big fire, right? And in a place like Michigan, yeah, they have storms, but I imagine they probably don't have as big of a storm risk as like maybe Tennessee, like some other places down in the South, Arkansas, like those places, you're going to get, Missouri, you're going to get a ton of storms coming through. So maybe you're going to be a little bit more prepared in other areas. But anyway, so there was a storm, a surge when they went to go turn the power back on, and there was a fire in the main building. Super devastating. I can only imagine how much their hearts like dropped to the floor, because you just have to put out the fire. So there's water, there's smoke, tons of damage. And so we got a second email-ish a few days later that basically said there was quite a bit of damage, so we are going to stop, or we're going to fill as many orders as we can that just came in, and then we're going to not take any orders, essentially. So they kind of slowed everything down, trying to fill orders that they could. Don't forget that they have a couple other buildings, so not all of their product is in there, but majority of their product, I imagine it was mostly the new stuff that was in there, because we're in this, well, I mean, we're always in a season of where new product comes in, but we are for sure in a season where there is a lot of new products that are just coming out. So certain companies are releasing new products, and some of these companies that work with Notions, this is like really the only place that you can get it. So anything that's We Are Memory Keepers, like that was under the umbrella of what American Crafts is. It's not anymore, but those products, right, you can only get them from Notions. There are other companies that you can only get your stuff really from Notions. So some companies like Ranger, you can order from Ranger, you can order from Notions. So they have some of their own stuff, but they also sell stuff or store it in Notions, and Notion sells it and then gives them the money, right? So we have all that going on. And so they assessed a little bit of the damage and said, this is a much bigger of a project than we thought. There's a lot of things that we have to fix to be able to even run properly. I mean, OSHA is a big deal. If many of you guys may or may not know, but my husband works in a distribution center, essentially, and he works on some of the machines for a big company. And these machines, they have to be running a certain way. Some of them are computer operated, some of them are not. I assume that it's not quite the same, but they have to follow these certain rules, and there has to be certain safety guidelines that are met. If they cannot do that, and if there's a big fire, there's just so much damage that you have to go in, you have to take it out, you have to figure out all of the products that were damaged so that you can catalog it and file claims. And I've never had to work with insurance companies to get things back, but I can tell you, I've heard of a lot of other people who have dealt with that, and it takes a while. It takes a long time when it's you yourself. But I imagine a business is a little bit different because they probably have certain people that can help them do that process a little bit more smoothly, but it still takes time. It takes time to get money, and depending on how big your business is, like especially with Notions, they're going to be able to run certain things if they can. So I think that's what they were hoping. I think they were hoping that the fire wasn't going to be as bad. But once again, when you have something like smoke and water damage, a lot of times you have to just cut your losses. You have to say that that's damaged, because you can't be selling a product that smells like smoke. You just don't know what that damage is until you start sorting through everything. So then the other day, they sent out another email that said, for sure, we're not taking any orders. We don't know how long this process is going to take. And then they went on to say that they are laying off some of their employees that work in the center, which means that there's a lot of damage, and they just don't know how long they're going to be out of business, and they can't not have those people work. And a lot of these families and workers probably have been working with them for years. And they really want to take care. So the owner spent a long time in this letter really just saying like what his intentions are to help the families so that they're not left dry, because it was an accident. It wasn't even something that they knew that they needed to plan for. So trying to help the employees. And so they spend a lot of time like really just kind of trying to explain what happened, which is very beneficial for a store like me and others, because it's the more information that we have, the better we can make better educated guesses on what we need to do for our own businesses, because we all are running businesses, right? They're running a business, we're running a business, we all need each other, and we are so interconnected in the craft hobby. So more to that. Okay, so at this point, we don't know how long it will be until Notions is back up and fully running. I imagine it's probably at least going to be till the end of the year, but I would think it might be longer. So we could be looking at 12 months. So what does that mean for the rest of us? What does that mean for the Crafty Maven? So what it really means is that all of these smaller stores are going to have to go and buy their products from other companies. So they're going to have to go straight to the manufacturer, or they're going to have to not sell things. So that's the other option, right? So for some small businesses, this is going to be super devastating. So something that was devastating just to start off with Notions is even more devastating. And this is on top of the fact that we have had a really weird industry transitions this year and last year. I feel like we've seen a lot of changes within the industry, just with different companies getting bought out, closing down, and stuff like that. So some businesses are not going to make it. They just, because all they do is buy from Notions. Some companies will be okay because they can adjust and they can hopefully work with some of the other manufacturers and other companies and provide something different. There are a ton of scrapbooking businesses. So I just want to say this right now as a scrapbooker. There are a ton of other companies that produce and make collections. So as devastating as it is, there will still be new products coming out. It just might take more time to get, and there's going to be this transition of figuring out exactly how much these other companies need to make, because I assume at this point they are going to have to figure out how they're going to handle the fact that they're going to have an influx of companies trying to wholesale through them, which a lot of them are not set up to be big wholesalers. I think of companies like Pink Fresh Studio. They do that really well on their own because they are just selling their products there, right? So if you want to wholesale with them, you have to go through them. With that said, if you're a smaller store, you're probably not going to wholesale with them, which is fine. And I found that I also, as a customer, I will just buy from a company like that because I can just go to their store and buy. Someone like Vicky Booten is not even doing wholesale yet. So whether she was trying to work with Notions or not to carry some of her stuff, which is probably would have been the smarter thing for her to do, now she's having to think about okay, do I even do wholesale? Do I just sell stuff on my store? So I think you're going to see a lot of companies just selling their own product on their own sites and having to deal with that. But there's a transition in that, because if you don't have enough employees to pack all the orders, it's as a small business owner who makes kits and has to pack out stuff at least once a month, but it's more than that because I get orders throughout the month. I have to plan out how I'm going to pack things up. It's getting to the point where I have to have my kids help pack things, right? So there's a transition of figuring out how are we going to make this work. The great thing with our industry and us as scrapbookers is that we're resilient. As crafters, we just kind of come up with different solutions. So things will get figured out. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Unfortunately, some of the products that were newer, that were just about to be released, because I will say there's a couple collections or items that I was going to buy for our kits in the next month or so, I'm not going to be able to get, because that product probably doesn't even exist anymore. So companies will be buying from other bigger manufacturers, and they'll just have to adjust. So they might not have as much product because they have to put more money into just one company, right? So, and for someone like the Crafty Maven, we just have to pivot a little bit more. I will say, I feel super, super lucky. I've been talking with a couple of the ladies who really helped me run some of the social media things. And we've been talking a lot about how can we pivot and change, because we started hearing this information a couple of weeks ago. And so now we're really starting to see, and now with this last email, we're just trying to figure out, how do we change? How do we make this easier on ourselves? I will say we are super lucky. Have been able to use a few different companies besides Notions to order some of my stuff. With that said, it is mostly mixed media stuff. So as for being able to provide as much scrapbooking products, it probably means that we will just be carrying less. There'll be less of that in the kits and more just art stuff. So we're going to pivot. We're going to do tools. We're going to try to find some other things, maybe make more of our own. We're working on doing more of that kind of stuff, producing our own stuff on a smaller scale and seeing where that takes us. So a company like mine, we will be able to survive because we can adjust. If I had decided to just do scrapbooking kits, there's no way that I would have been able to do it because I'm not in a place like Hip Kits where they're able to produce and manufacture their own products for their kits. I'm sure that saves them a ton of money because they're not having to work around the new products and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that's why they decided to do that at the beginning, because it is sometimes you are waiting on the distributor. There are some times where I wanted certain things for our kits and I just couldn't get them because they couldn't get it to me fast enough, or it ran out before, because a company that's bigger than mine is going to be able to order their supplies before I will. So in some ways, this could be a blessing for companies who are able to kind of maybe make some more of these changes on their own. And then there is going to be some companies who are for sure not going to. And you will just have a hard time finding certain products. Things like American Crafts, like a lot of the tools and stuff, you're just not going to be able to get. You're just going to have to wait. The great thing is we all hopefully have so many supplies that we could create for a while without getting some brand new things. So I would encourage everyone to make sure that you're supporting the stores that you really absolutely love. So by sending them messages and emails, if you can, that isn't like harassing them, by going in and buying the stuff that they are able to buy from other stores. Like if you're doing that, then that's going to help them have the buying power to buy more supplies from other companies. Also, one of the ways that you can support is by joining and being part of their communities, right? So like when we get this feedback, we can figure out how we can pivot the best. So, and then also just being open-minded and realizing that this is no one person's fault, and that sometimes accidents and things happen and we just have to adjust. And it stinks because we are in this scrappy weirdness. I feel like it already has been super dog and hard to be able to get certain collections and certain products because they just run out like that, because we're just not making, these companies are not making as much as they used to because they're not selling it. You just don't want to have a ton of product just laying around because then no one gets to use it and appreciate it. So you do want this level of having, a little bit less than maybe what you would want to have, so that you're not wasting money, because you still have to pay for it to be manufactured, right? You still have to pay for someone to make those products. So if they're sitting around, you're not going to be able to do that. So certain stores, like I know Office Depot was having, they were selling a lot of Notion stuff, especially recently. So, and this is one thing that I've noticed, and this is a little bit part of that, but not, is that Notions was doing a lot of sales of the old American Craft stuff. So they were really trying to get those out. And so there's a lot of older collections that I think were able to get rid of before this. So you might still be able to find some of that stuff through those companies as long as they already had it in their hand. But it is what it is. So we will see how this impacts. I mean, I am truly praying and hoping that the Notions family, that they will be able to get things resolved a lot quicker than they think, and that everything will be up in working order in the way that they had seen, their vision for it. Because I imagine switching to a newer facility just as nerve-wracking as it is. So, and you kind of had this plan of like, yeah, and then all of a sudden it's derailed. And so I will say when they come back, we need to be ready to support them again. And it's going to be squeaky and clunky a little bit, but I think that this is this gives us the opportunity for other companies that were thinking about doing more. This gives them that opportunity to do that. And I am super excited to see that. I know that me and Megan did our episode recently, so definitely I'll make sure I have it over on the side here so that you can watch our discussion and talking about how this industry is changing. I think this is just one more way that is showing us that we have to do things differently. We cannot continue to just keep doing things the same way, because that's how we were doing it. We were buying from just one distributor. So maybe this will allow for some smaller distributors who work with some other companies in the industry, and that we'll be able to buy from them. So I'm really hoping, because as of right now, Notions was the main company. You bought from Notions because they bought from everybody else. They were big enough to be able to do that. So that's the downfall of having more of a monopoly in the industry. But I think it really gives us this opportunity to like spread out and see and let other companies shine, you know? And one thing I will leave on this end note is that Ranger has announced that they are working with 49 and Market, and they are going to start selling some of 49 and Market's products, so their upcoming products. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to look as a store, but you will be able to buy 49 and Market stuff through them. So before you could get 49 and Market through Notions, but now you can also get it through Ranger. And Ranger has already said that they are going to pick up the slack. They are going to do whatever they can to help. And so I think that's a bright side, because they are another really big company that provide a lot of products that might not be for everybody, but who knows what that means for them. It might give them the opportunity to shine in a different way and maybe work with some other companies. So we'll see, because I think that's pretty exciting. And then, we're just going to have to keep using our stash. We're going to have to stash dive. And I think that's okay. I have a ton of products that are just sitting from years and years. So anyway, definitely check out that video that I just talked about, where we talk about the changes in the industry, because I think that was a super fun conversation. And definitely make sure that you like and subscribe, and comment below what you are excited to see in this new change. What things are you hoping to see out of this that will really step things up for our crafting community and make things easier to buy?